In the previous video, we already discussed the crowding out effect. Okay? Here, a quick summary about this effect is when the economy is hit by a recession, government spending would increase, okay? Especially advocated by Democrats, okay? And that leads to a decrease in national saving. Okay, and then we're gonna see a shortage on the loanable funds market. So the real interest rate will go up, okay, which eventually leads to a decrease in private investment. And we said this is totally undesirable. This is not what a government wants to see. Okay, so the increase in government spending eventually crowds out private investment. Okay. Now, here we're going to check out the empirical evidence. Okay? And specifically, we're going to look at the association between the government spending and interest rate. Okay? Now, if the logical reasoning makes sense, or if the theory, the analysis works on the ground, we're supposed to see a positive correlation between government spending and the interest rate, right? Now, let's check out the historical military spending of the United Kingdom and its interest rate, okay? The sample period is between 1730 and 1920. All right, you see two curves on this figure. The red one is the interest rate, and you're supposed to look at the right-hand axis. And the green one is a military spending. You're supposed to refer to the left scale. Okay. Now, I would suggest you to pause the video and think about if this piece of evidence is consistent with our analysis on the crowding out effect. In other words, do you find the supporting evidence on the crowding out effect, or the evidence that is against the effect? Now here we could say that if we start with the military spending, okay, every time when UK was involved in a war, its military spending rose dramatically, okay, as a share of its GDP. All right, every time again we see it spikes, okay. During the same time, we find that interest rate spikes as well. Okay, so that tells us that the spending, the government spending, in this case, specifically on military products or military spending, and the interest rate have a very positive correlation. Okay, and we look at the military spending because back then it accounts to a significant portion of British government spending. As you can see, for example, during the wars with France, okay, the military spending accounted for about 14% of its GDP. Okay, so you could imagine this is really the primary component of overall government spending during the wartime. Okay. Actually, some economic historians argue that UK won many of these wars, for example the wars with France, simply because in UK there was a more mature market for loanable funds, so that the British government can raise more funds from this market by issuing the government bonds, and they can get more financial resources to support its military actions. Okay. let's come back here. So what we're saying is the evidence we just check out is supporting, okay, is consistent with our theoretical conclusion. All right. And then the next one we're going to look at is tax cuts. As we said, oftentimes Democrats advocate spending hikes, or they believe that the government should increase its spending to fight against a recession. But Republicans disagree. They believe the right way to boost the economy is to decrease taxes. Okay, now let's do the same supply and demand analysis and see what we can find from the Republicans' proposal. Okay, now so taxes fall, right? And which side of this loanable funds market is going to be directly affected? We would say it's still supply. Okay, the national saving would decrease. Okay, now why? Oops, I'm sorry. Why national saving would decrease? This is because national saving equals let me write it here. National saving equals y minus c minus g. Do you still remember this? So this y is how much we produce. It determines how much we make, right? C is the consumption and G is government spending. Now it looks like there's no T in this formula, right? Some of you, if you remember when we talk about public saving, private saving, and how we combine them to get national saving, it looks like over there T, taxes, has been cancelled out. Okay, so you probably tend to say that a decrease in taxes won't affect our national saving. However, here you have to look at the C in this formula. Our consumption depends upon our disposable income. Let me write it up here. Okay, it depends upon our national income. Our disposable income, or the after-tax income, right? So here, when we find the taxes decrease, our disposable income actually increase. Okay, and we tend to spend more on consumption. Now, when C becomes larger, then the y minus c minus g becomes smaller. Okay, so the national saving would decrease. And then we're going to shift the curve to the left, right? Now I believe we have already done with this analysis. Do you know why? Because this is exactly the same as we just said before, right, with the spending hikes proposal. So here we find no matter the government increases its spending or decreases taxes, it will lead to a decrease in national saving, right? It's the same here. And so the saving curve shifts to the left. We're going to see a shortage in the second step. The shortage on the loanable funds market will push up the real interest rate, right? And then the opportunity cost goes up. So eventually we will see a decrease in investment, private investment. In other words, no matter it's a spending hike or tax cut, we will see in both cases the crowding out effect. Then we would ask why or what Democrats and Republicans are fighting on the Capitol Hill if there's no difference in terms of the crowding out effect. Okay, this is the question I want to leave with you as the iShare project. Okay, so which one do you think is better? For whom it's better? Okay, spending hikes versus tax cuts. So this is a fourth iShare project, and I'm gonna post the instruction files on Moodle so that you can follow that and finish this iShare project. Okay, and when you bring it back to our virtual meeting, we can talk about this, and I will share my thoughts with you as well. Okay, again, this is an open-ended question. Feel free to say anything, but I want you to base your response upon evidence, okay, upon the economic reasoning. And in the instruction files, I would also give you several clues, several directions I would point out. Okay, if you don't have, any other ideas. Okay, if you do, feel free to discuss that. So here we pretty much wrap up our like theoretical discussion about the crowding out effect. Okay.